Hello everyone, welcome to Siebijoux Studio Diaries. Today, I want to invite you to be the fly on the wall of my little jewelry corner here. I recorded my process of creating a bezel setting. While I won't be providing a specific instruction since I'm still learning, you will be able to follow the entire workflow including measuring, cutting, setting, and polishing. If you are a beginner, this video will offer a helpful overview of what to expect as you explore jewelry making. For those of you with more experience, I hope you enjoy watching the process as well. And because we're all part of this community, I give you the permission to share any constructive feedback on my work. Before we dive in this fresh beginning of 2025, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Siebijoux, but please call me C. I am an amateur jewelry maker, jewelry designer. I run a jewelry business online, and I am here to share my experience. Here is a fun fact about me. I incessantly contemplate practical ways to transform nothing into something. This mindset inspires me to create a DIY project, which eventually sparkled my interest in jewelry making. So, this is why in this channel, I'm about to help you find an inspiration of what to create with your hands. You will see a lot of tutorial videos, tips, and tricks. My hope is to give you encouragement, hopefully, with the confidence of the success of making one thing. You will start developing your creativity with your own taste and your own style. Furthermore, when I'm learning something new, I often share my creative process step by step with you, like what I'm about to do today. So this will be my third video on making bezel set. If you are curious on what I did previously, you can visit these two videos. I will link it successively on the screen here. So without further ado, let's get to work.
This is Labradorite stone. The cut is called rose cut because it has a flat back, and the smooth cut finish is called cabochon. Gorgeous stone, but rather crispy, so I need to be super careful setting here. Do you see the iridescent blue hues that capture the light in the middle? This is called labradorescence. The color is not always blue, it can be green, gold, even purples. And the measurement of the stone is 8 by 6 millimeters. To set the stone, I will use 16 gauge recycled wire and a 28 gauge plate, both made of argentium silver. I'll measure the thickness of the plate by checking the walls while placing the wire underneath the stone. This wire will serve as the open back of the setting. The key is to ensure that the bezel isn't too high nor too low. If it's too high, it will cover too much of the stone, providing security but lacking aesthetic appeal. Conversely, if it's too low, it won't grip the stone adequately. It will risk to jiggle. Let's work on the wire. I'll flatten it using a pair of parallel pliers and convert the round wire into a square wire. I'll do this by hammering one side and then turning it to 90 degrees and hammering it again. I will repeat the process until I achieve the desired squareness. Before filming, I had already cut the plate with shears and the edge is very wonky. So right now, I'm going to fix it. I'm installing the silver plate onto the ring clamp for easier handling. The idea is to file down the edges using 220 grit sandpaper. I need to smoothen out the thickness of the plate for a prettier result later. If you want to know the detailed measurement on how to cut the plate, I have it all explained on my other video. I will insert the thumbnail image for you to recognize it, and also, of course, I will put the link in the description below. Now this is a piece of double tape that I will put it on the V-slot. It will somehow hold the stone while I measure the wall. Next, using round nose pliers, I'm curving one side of the plate to create a half round shape. And then wrap it around the stone. which seems to be easiest way to measure the bezel's diameter. The word that is used often for the bezel set tutorials out there that it's make sure that the wall is tight fit. However, for me personally, it takes practice to learn how tight or loose the wall should be around the stone. In short, if you don't set it correctly at the first go, don't get discouraged because I also went through the same thing even right now. Okay, now I've marked the edge with Sharpie and cut them using the metal shears. Now I'm going to shave the two edges to smooth out the both surface to meet it completely in the middle for the soldering work later. Glaze the component with flux and I place the solder underneath the seam. Be careful, this is a very small element. It's very easy to melt. Make sure that we solder on the both sides. Oh, speaking of the devil, I'm going to fix this. I slide the bezel ring in the tiny mandrel and hammer using rawhide mallet to avoid marring the silver. Just give it a light tap on the lower part of the bezel. And I'm going to flip it over since I don't want my bezel ring to have a cone shape. And then I'm going to take the parallel pliers to flatten the bezel ring and voila, an oval shape. I'm going to check for the tightness. This seems okay, but I feel like it's too tight still. I'm going to make an attempt to enlarge it using this mandrel and bench vise. I want to make sure that the bezel ring is tightly slide through the mandrel and I want to mount the front side, which is the narrower side of the mandrel on the bench vise. And then take any hammer and hit it slowly at first. And you're going to feel it move a little bit. It means that the vessel is slightly enlarged. And to take it off, do it like how it was done, only reverse the position of the mandrel. Next, I'm going to file the edge of the bezel ring. Don't worry about the fit, I had tested it, only that I forgot to hit record. So I'm going to move on to the next step, which is filing the edge of the bezel ring. And I'm going to build the open back of the set using this 16 gauge wire that I had flattened it a little bit earlier, with the hope that I don't need to file too much at the end, but we'll see. I take a round nose pliers, make a half circle shape and measure it along shaping. Make sure that the open back can snug fit inside the bezel wall. It's a meticulous work, very hard to do at the beginning, but not the hardest for me. I had done a bezel set using a closed back where I set a pair of turquoise stone, which is very fun to make. I will link the video here if you would like to watch it later. I'm using the ring clamp again to hold the ring while I file the edges flat. Right now, I'm using the circular disc mounted on the power tools for the easier work. Okay, done. Taking it off from the ring clamp and put the edges back together. And the moment of truth, is this fit? It seems like it is, but I'm going to go ahead and force the fitting a little bit by pushing the wall down using the side of the pliers, and I think it works. Make sure that it's really touching the base of the wall. I'm using whatever tools I can find here. Okay, we can move on to the next step by soldering these all together. I'm glazing the component with flux, placing the bezel upside down, and putting on top of it a couple of solder bits. I think you can put at least three. And fire. For the torch, I'm always using the butane torch. I would like to know about your opinion. What are the torch that you're using at the moment and why? I'm happy using this butane torch personally since my work is small. If I were to make a sculpture jewelry, for example, I may need a bigger flame, maybe later. But for the moment, butane torch is safer, and for the propane, I may even have to look at our home insurance policy. Maybe it's not even covered, and since I'm working at home, I worry that it's not gonna be good. Let me know in the comment below what you think about these torch, and if you have any other reference, or if you can tell me your favorite torch, it would be awesome. Thank you. And hey, it's done, I think. Alright, enough about the chit chatting. Next up, I'm going to install the bale, but first we have to make the bale first. This is the bale that I'm using. I take a piece of wire, 18 gauge preferably, and then make a U shape and draw the two edges close until it's touched like this, and then I just file it flat. And I'm contemplating if I should line it or put it on perpendicular, but finally I decided to make it perpendicular. And I'm using the Dremel disc to cut the edges flat so that it will be nice and clean. Let's operate the last soldering work here. I am putting the bale above the bezel, which is on the vertical side of the bezel, with the help of third hand and this metal weight to hold the bezel in place. So this is my setup, and I'm going to heat up the piece and melt the solder separately. And then when the solder is melting, I'm going to apply it on the intersection using the titanium pick. Super nervous. Every time I solder tiny complicated things, I'm always very nervous. And now that I think about it, by far this is the hardest step for me to do. So nervous. Alright, let's knock on wood and let's not jinx everything out. It looks super fine. Honestly, guys, I'm so happy. It's perfect. I love this, and I even love the shape of the bale. It has like a protruding, like a bulging stomach thing. It looks weird, but I think it's gonna look very, very pretty. Okay, let's do the hardest work, which is filing. First, I need to file away the textured back. When I solder the wall to the backing, it creates a noticeable seam and texture. It's inevitable. To achieve a seamless look for the bezel set, I need to eliminate a lot of silver. So I'm going to first use the manual file, but to make it faster, I'm going to use this 100 grit sandpaper mounted on the power tool. I don't. Now that I think about it, it can be between 80 grit sandpaper to 100. So it can be either one of those. I need to be very careful with this. If this is your first bezel project, I recommend you to just use the hand file. It's more control, it has more control, and you won't risk of losing a lot of silver with this. Fast forward, now I want to show you how to reduce the Bombay effect on the inside of the bezel. To do this, I'm using a diamond burr to flatten the base. I realized that the square wire I shaped at the beginning was not really square enough. If I were to use a square wire, it would have been different, I think. So slowly I'm gonna make a circular movement, make sure that the edge is touching the base of the bezel. Next, I want to sand the whole surface of the bezel set to make sure that everything is smooth without a jagged edges or any nicks. Okay, let's make a smoothness check. It will be the first one that I'm doing here. It looks okay. The bezel, backing of the bezel looks super good. But it seems like on the side, I found this light scar. It may be because of the melted silver at the beginning. It's alright. I'm going to just sand it more with a coarser sandpaper. For the number, it can be from 220 to 300. That's like my favorite number. And eventually, I gave up and I'm using this aluminum oxide sanding bit that will really smoothen the edge very fast. Okay, moving forward, I'm using 800 grit sandpaper to smoothen out the entire surface for a finer finish. So earlier, before the check, I was using 600 grit sandpaper. So now it's 800 grit sandpaper. Let me tell you about my experience in practice. I often find myself switching back and forth between smooth and coarse sandpaper. It's almost impossible for me to go from coarse to smooth in one go. Whenever I'm ready to use a higher grit, there's always a spot with slide nick or scratch or whatever, like you saw earlier, that requires me to return to the coarser sandpaper to smoothen it out. If you have the same experience, a word of encouragement, you guys, you are not alone. I would love to hear your experience with this nonetheless. Please let me know in the comment. I would love to discuss this with you. And lastly, for the setting, use the square bezel pusher. That is my favorite tool so far. I purchased this from Etsy, but the edges was a bit rough, honestly. So I had to smoothen it out using a few passes with 80 grit sandpaper mounted on the power tool. And voila! For me, there's no specific way to push the bezel. Honestly, just to make sure that I do it very slowly and carefully, not to scratch the surface. It's one of the hardest part, and it's almost never happened to me. If it happens, which is all the time, I always clean it off using the green rubber polishing bit. I'm just going to let you watch the process and the real time speed so you know that this is how long it takes, and that's the exact movement that I'm making in order to set the bezel stone. If you have any other question about this, please let me know in the comment below. This will really help me to improve, and also we can communicate. And also, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, I would invite you to do that and turn on your notification bell so that you can be notified every time a new video is up. And to add the accent, I burnish the inside part of the bezel for a smoother look. And lastly, I do not polish this time since it will be in the satin finish. I'm just going to rub off the piece with this steel wool. I'm careful so it won't touch the stone, even if I think it should not give any effect though, but just in case. And that's it. I pop it into the ultrasonic machine and done. And along with this, I also made plenty of other bezel pendants using different stones. You can check this out on my Etsy shop. I will link the details on the description of this video. And voila, this is the end result of the Labradorite cabochon set in bezel. Super amazing stone with layers of mineral. Each has its own quality to capture the light. This makes it so hard to take pictures, you guys. But here you go. If you're interested in the spiritual side of the natural stone, labradorite is often associated with protective and healing properties, believed to enhance intuition and spiritual awareness.
What do you think of this project? Please help me by rating the difficulties on the comment below, from 1 being the easiest and 10 being the hardest. I also would like to know what is the most dangerous, creative, and beautiful things that you made in the year of 2024. Well, have a happy new year. Take care, stay creative. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a nice comment, click a thumbs up, and see you on the next video. Goodbye.